stand aside now. If you don't have a case number, you can't go through this gate, okay? Security, stay where you are. Just call, I'll log every word you say.
Airport gate A1285 AM. The first class marquee glows blue. A gate agent blocks a black CEO, pinches his boarding pass, and taps an override scanner, beeps red. Security drifts closer. Phones rise. He doesn't raise his voice. Log everything. Beat. Which policy? What evidence? Why only me? Agent escort him out. He steps one pace aside, lifts his phone. Ops. Gate A12 standards breach. Pull the gate log. Crowd hushes. Status boards flicker. Title card punches in. One call freeze. Watch what happens when quiet power meets a fake rule. Gate A12 sits under a wash of blue light at 8:05 a.m. The concourse hums with wheels and voices. A digital marquee reads, First Class. The black CEO arrives with a carry-on, a navy suit, and a paper boarding pass that shows C2A. He sets the bag upright, presents the pass, and lets the scanner do the talking. A flat red tone answers. The gate agent narrows her eyes, taps a menu on the terminal, and curls a finger over the corner of his pass as if it belongs to her. Your ticket is flagged. She says the word review like it is a wall. Around them, a family huddles near the stanchions. A couple in matching hoodies leans in. The air has that pause right before a crowd decides to pay attention. He does not flinch. He looks at the scanner, not at the agent. Which policy is this? What evidence supports the flag? Why only me? The questions land without heat, one by one, as if he is checking boxes on a form. The agent avoids the questions and points to security standing 6 feet away, a gray-haired officer with a radio clipped high on his vest. We can sort this out after boarding. Please step aside. The words are polite, but the body language is a shove. He draws the pass back to his palm. The paper makes a soft rasp. He looks at the line. Phones rise. Someone whispers, I think that seat is his. The agent reaches past him and tries another override. The terminal chirps red again. Her jaw tightens. She calls him a guest only and says the reservation will need verification. The word guest hangs there like he is standing in the wrong room. He keeps his voice at conversation level. Log everything. He takes a half step aside, enough to break the pose of a standoff, and lifts his phone. Oops. Gate A12. Standards issue. Pull the gate log and override history. He sets the phone to the speaker. The microphone picks up the concourse sound. He does not raise his eyebrows. He does not perform. Security shifts closer. Sir, the agent needs you to move out of the lane. The officer is careful, almost bored, but he squares his feet to block any forward motion. The CEO glances at the badge reader and then at the officer. I am not blocking boarding. I am requesting policy and proof. The officer looks to the gate agent for the script. She nods and tries to wave the next passenger forward, but the lane is no longer moving. The tension has turned into a knot that sits at waist level, and no one wants to push through it. His phone clicks as someone picks up at operations. Ops, here. What is the station? He gives the details. Flight number, a 12, seat 2A. Paper pass and app confirm first class. The gate terminal is overriding with guests only. He adds the line he always uses. This is a standards breach. Please review the system. The ops voice shifts from casual to precise. Copy, pulling the gate log. He turns the volume low and the call becomes a background pulse. He speaks to the agent without aggression. Show me the on-system evidence for your override. If there is a fraud flag, it will have a case number. If this is random, say random and show the policy. The agent exhales through her nose and points at a laminated card taped to the counter. The card is a generic procedure. It says we reserve the right to re-verify. It does not mention manual guest only overrides for a confirmed first-class seat with ID and loyalty match. Then the truth keeper appears. A junior staffer at the adjacent terminal lifts his head. He has a lanyard crowded with keys and a smudge on his sleeve. His screen shows a seat map in mint green. He says quietly to the agent that 2A is occupied by this passenger and that the CRM notes are clean. The agent snaps that he is not assigned to A12. She reaches to lock his screen. He pulls his hands back to neutral. The moment is small, but the crowd notices it because it looks like someone trying to hide a file. Ops speaks up on the phone. We see a manual change at 8:12. Badge ID ending in 37 entered guess only with no supporting case number. The last valid scan shows 2A confirmed at 7:12 a.m. The call is calm and documentary. Security hears it. The officer loosens his stance by a degree. The CEO nods once. Thank you. Keep the line open. He looks at the agent. He does not search for a speech. He makes a decision. Terminate access to the override for now. Freeze the gate until the audit completes. Log the chain of custody for this boarding pass and every manual change at A12 in the last hour. The words are simple and clean, like a checklist read into a recorder. For a heartbeat, nothing happens. Then the terminal on the counter shifts from blue to gray as a system lock takes hold. The badge reader blinks amber. A subtle hush passes over the boarding area. The officer steps back half a foot and sets his hands behind his belt. The junior staffer watches the screen and swallows. The couple in hoodies drops their eyes to their phones. The family near the stanchions presses closer together but relaxes a little as if a storm has moved past the window without hitting the glass. The black CEO lowers his phone but does not end the call. He looks at the camera lens in a bystander's hand and says, "Only this. Standards are not personal, they are policies." He slides the boarding pass into his jacket pocket like evidence going into a file. The blue marquee still reads, "First class." The path to the jet bridge is clear, and yet the story is not about a seat anymore. It is about what a system shows when someone asks it to tell the truth. The freeze holds for 60 seconds that feel like 10 scenes. Boarding halts at A12 while the other gates continue flowing like parallel rivers. A station manager hustles over with a tablet hugged to her chest, breath short from a jog through the concourse. Before she speaks, Ops on the phone confirms what matters. The account is fully verified, TSA pre-check number matches, ID verified at security, loyalty tier executive. There is no fraud case tied to this reservation. The manager absorbs that news with a swallow and tries a different lane. "Sir, can we reaccommodate you to a later flight and offer a voucher?" He looks at her without annoyance. "No reaccommodation. This is a standards review. Keep the freeze until the audit completes." The gate agent tries to reset the story by addressing the crowd. "Folks, minor technical delay. We appreciate your patience." Her voice is thin over the whir of the HVAC. A frequent flyer at the rope line asks if the delay is about weight and balance. The agent says yes out of habit. The CEO lifts a finger, not to interrupt, but to request precision. Do not cite weight and balance unless dispatch has posted a revised load sheet. The manager checks her tablet. There is no revised load sheet. The crowd registers the correction with a small shift of posture, the way people lean when they hear confidence backed by receipts. Security keeps a light perimeter. The officer now stands at an angle that includes both the agent and the CEO, neutral, waiting for instructions that will not put him on video doing something he cannot defend. His radio crackles and then quiets. Across the aisle, the junior staffer, the truth keeper, has opened a reference page. He quietly shows the manager the CRM timeline, purchase timestamp, ID match, seat assignment, check-in event, valid scan at 7:12, manual override at 8:04 tied to the agent's badge. The manager's mouth tightens. That is enough for an internal case. Legal dials into the ops call, a calm baritone from a conference room with carpet that makes conversations disappear. He asks 3 questions to lock the frame. 1. Has the customer interfered with boarding? No. 2. Is there an active fraud case or security directive naming this customer? No. 3. Does the gate have policy authority to relabel a confirmed first-class passenger as guest only without system cause? No. Then legal says the sentence that moves the scene forward. Proceed with a station-level access suspension for the override function pending review. Document all interactions. Notify PR after resolution, not before. The agent tries one last narrative turn. She says the way he looked at her felt aggressive. He turns his head a fraction. Finish that sentence. The baritone on the phone returns. Please note that the customer has asked for a specific language. If you intend to log behavioral risk, state the observable behavior only. The agent stalls. She has none she can put on record. Someone in the crowd murmurs that he has been calm the whole time. A woman in a denim jacket steps forward to place her rolling bag in front of his shoe like a small fence, a physical signal that she will not watch him be walked off without cause. Human shield, gentle version. Ops sends push notifications to the gate devices, the screens blink, and a banner slides across the top. Override function disabled at a 12. System message acknowledges temporary freeze due to integrity check. The terminal lights dim to a neutral gray that signals nobody here will be improvising for a while. The manager inhales, then exhales, and tries honesty. Sir, I did not authorize the override. We will board you as ticketed once the system is stable. He nods. Thank you. Keep Jamal on this lane. He is the only one who acknowledged what the system shows. PR finally appears in the periphery. A tidy figure with a smile that suggests every problem is a misunderstanding if you say misunderstanding softly enough. She offers an off-gate lounge while the team clears up the confusion. He declines without anger. I am fine at the gate. The story is not in a lounge. It is here, on the system. She corrects the course and asks permission to stand by for questions after the audit. Permission granted, on record. The station manager lifts her radio and speaks in a clipped code that means call me in the back. But she does not leave. She keeps her eyes on the devices because the devices no longer lie. On the phone, Ops reads the early audit results. No duplicate PNR, no chargeback, no mismatch between app and paper pass. The only irregularity is a human one, a manual reclassification that turned a confirmed seat into a problem. Legal requests that the station pull the last 30 days of manual guest-only flags by user ID. That is how you find a pattern. The CEO steps half a pace to the side so families with connecting flights can sit. He remains visible. He does not posture for cameras, but he does not disappear. His voice stays low and even. Standards are how you protect everyone, including your staff. The officer hears it and relaxes enough to look human again. The truth keeper logs an internal note crediting the customer for requesting evidence rather than escalation. The manager initiates the note and timestamps the freeze. The crowd's energy settles into something like patience. People check watches, then look up at the board, then make the micro math of delays and connections. The CEO's phone vibrates. An email arrives from compliance with a case number and a promise of a written report to the board that oversees customer standards and anti-bias training. He replies with 3 lines. Thank you for the case number. Keep Jamal attached to A12 for the remainder of this flight and add a follow-up on recertification scheduling for gate leads. The agent stands in place, hands now flat on the counter. Policy has crowded out improvisation. The story will continue, but the gate, for the first time this morning, is under control. Ops expands the call to include station ops, IT security, and compliance. The audio shifts as more mics unmute, a faint room tone that signals scale. On a nearby monitor, the gate device mirrors to a secure session. An IT analyst reads the breadcrumb trail with the calm of someone who lives inside logs. Badge ID 4137 authenticated at 7:58 a.m. Roll gate lead at 8:04 a.m. User 4137 entered a manual classification change to guest only on PNR ending 26FQ. No linked fraud ticket. No SSR conflict. Seat 2, a remained assigned in inventory but boarding permission toggled to deny. That is a contradiction only a person can cause. The station manager leans in just enough to see the mirrored screen. She asks for the audit view that includes keystroke annotations. The analyst complies. A short sequence plays back like a minimalist movie. Cursor to overrides, drop down to reclassify, selection guest only, confirm, yes. The timestamps tick in the corner. The manager does not scold. She notes the sequence, then requests the last 20 similar events by the same badge ID. Patterns matter more than speeches. The agent tries to create a new angle by pointing to a pop-up that says Document Review Recommended. The analyst tilts the view so everyone can read it. The recommendation is system generated for any paper boarding pass because paper is easier to lose than a phone, not a reason to deny boarding. The CEO lets the record speak. He is quiet for a full 5 count before he asks for the artifacts to be attached to the case. The request is precise. Mirror recording. Keystroke log. CCTV angle on the counter. Printer job history for a 12 this morning. Chain of custody for this paper pass since print. Security's posture softens further. The officer keys his radio and requests a time check for the CCTV export. A back office voice answers with confidence and a timestamp. They are not scrambling, they are documenting. PR stands 2 paces behind the manager and writes a note to herself that says, "Do not minimize, confirm, process." She stays out of the microphone lane, which is wise. Jamal, the junior staffer, keeps working at the open terminal. He pulls up the seat map again, not to show off, but because passengers at the rope line have real questions. He answers them quickly and without drama. Yes, the aircraft is here. No, we are not oversold in first. Yes, the system is under a temporary integrity hold. When he talks, people listen without rolling their eyes. The manager notices that too and marks a mental note. Ops issues a short directive. Resume boarding for main cabin on B10 and C4 to reduce pressure in the concourse. Hold A12 until the system clears. The announcement lands and the crowd at adjacent gates starts moving. Energy here becomes less restless, more focused. The CEO takes the moment to email 2 recipients. Compliance receives a brief line requesting that the station complete anti-bias recertification within 30 days. Operations receives a note requesting a review of manual override authority by role and station, with a recommendation to require dual authorization for any class reclassification at boarding. Legal returns to the line with a decision. Effective immediately, user 4137's override permissions are suspended pending interview. The station will appoint a temporary lead for A12. Preserve evidence under the case number already issued. Notify the union representative to ensure fair process. The phrasing is clinical and balanced, which makes it stronger. It addresses both the rights of the worker and the rights of the passenger. The crowd does not hear this nuance, but they feel the steadiness. The manager steps to the counter and asks the agent to step back from the terminal. Her tone is even. She collects the lanyard badge to reassign logins and sets it on the counter, not as a humiliation, as a control measure. The badge reader chirps and declines the badge when she tests it. It is a small light and a small sound, but it means the system has caught up to the situation. CCTV clips arrive in the ops channel. The camera above the counter shows the first clean scan of the paper pass at 7:12 a.m. The agent's hand reaching to cover the barcode later, and the second red beep after the override. No raised voice, no reaching across the stanchion, no rule broken by the customer. The video is ordinary and therefore persuasive. Compliance adds the clip to the case file. The CEO takes a breath that is almost invisible and looks at the manager. "Shall we restore boarding by the book?" She nods. IT clears the freeze in stages. The terminal returns from gray to blue. The boarding scanner runs a self-check. Jamal positions the stanchion and prepares to scan. The manager signals security to remain present but passive. The officer nods and shifts to the side, eyes on the lane, radio quiet. Before the first passenger moves, the CEO asks one final on-record question. Has the station logged the verbal allegations made a moment ago? Legal replies that the record shows no observable behavior to support risk and the entry is closed. He answers with a single line, "Thank you. Please include Jamal as a witness who cited system truth." The manager acknowledges. Jamal hears his name and stands taller without changing expression. The agent lingers at the edge of the counter, then takes a seat near the window, hands folded. This is not a public shaming. It is a pause while the process takes over. PR approaches her quietly and offers a path to debrief and representation. That, too, is part of standards. Boarding resumes with the smallest rituals that make air travel work. Jamal scans the CEO's pass. The tone is a clean chime. The screen reads, "Seat 2A, verified." Jamal meets his eyes for a beat and says, "Welcome aboard." The CEO nods once. He does not turn it into a moment. He steps onto the jet bridge while the camera of a nearby passenger catches the blue light on the gate sign. The story is not vengeance. It is a correction, recorded in the places systems cannot pretend. The jet bridge hums with that hollow air and a faint rattle from the fuselage. Inside the doorway, the lead flight attendant stands in the galley with a tablet. She has already been briefed by ops, not with gossip, but with a case number and the instruction to document any passenger interactions by seat. Her tone is warm and measured as the black CEO steps aboard. Welcome. Seat 2A is ready. If you need anything for documentation, I can timestamp the service log. He thanks her and stows his carry-on in the forward bin where a tag already matches his name. He sits and glances once at the cabin camera near the ceiling. He is not performing, he is making sure the record includes the part where he was seated as ticketed. A text arrives from compliance while the boarding chime repeats. It lists the early corrective actions approved at the station level: override suspension for user 4137, temporary freeze on manual guest only at a 12 for 24 hours pending recert, pull last 30 days of similar overrides for pattern scan. He replies with a single line: confirm training schedule for gate leads within 30 days and copy the board. In the aisle, a man in a blazer leans toward the seat and whispers that he saw the whole thing and has video if needed. The CEO thanks him, asks for the clip to be emailed to the case address now displayed on the monitor by the galley. The lead flight attendant has placed it there like a discreet address plaque. People follow clear instructions when they are given with respect. The captain steps to the doorway, not to the grandstand, but because the door is still open and the station manager is at the threshold. He cannot invite a passenger into the cockpit, so he keeps to the public side and speaks just loud enough for the forward cabin. We have a documented integrity hold that is clearing. No safety impact. Thank you for your patience. He nods to the CEO without turning it into a show. He cares about the right thing, the rules that let him take off. Back at the gate, the manager finalizes the handoff to a temporary lead. Jamal stays on the lane and continues boarding with a steady rhythm. Scan, chime, welcome. He does not add commentary. He lets the system do the talking now that the system is honest again. PR drafts a line about a brief technical issue, then deletes it. The internal note from legal is clear. Do not minimize, do not invent. When asked, state that manual processes are under review and thank passengers for their patience. Truth holds better than spin. In 2A, the CEO watches the last passengers settle. He does not take a free drink when it is offered early. He asks for water and a receipt sent to email with a timestamp because small documents make big claims easier to prove later. The lead flight attendant understands the tone and nods. She marks an entry on the service log with his request, neutral and factual. Ops sends a final update to the phone, still face down on his tray. Audit in progress. Station incentives tied to on-time performance will be held for this flight pending review, not as punishment, as leverage to fix the process that put the flight at risk in the first place. He adds a suggestion. Use part of that hold to fund research trainers and to compensate frontline staff for time spent in training, including Jamal. The reply is quick, logged and approved in principle, budget to follow. The station manager steps onto the aircraft to make a short statement within earshot of the recorder at the door. Sir, we will complete the review and send a written apology that includes the corrective actions taken. He does not ask for perks. He asks for a copy to the union so the fix benefits staff as well as customers. She agrees. That, on record, is the point where this becomes more than a seat. The agent sits in a conference room now, not at the gate. HR and a union rep review the keystrokes and the timeline. There is no rush to condemn, only the insistence that words match logs. The process may clear bias, or it may expose patterns. Either way, the board will see the facts. That is, the outcome standards are built to deliver. The door closes, the cabin lights shift to a softer white. The lead flight attendant arms the door and gives the captain a thumbs up. The aircraft pushes back a few minutes behind schedule, not hours. The captain announces a straightforward route and a tailwind that will return some time to the clock. People relax. The story in their heads becomes a lesson rather than a spectacle. The CEO opens his laptop and drafts a short note labeled debrief. It has 3 lines. Terminate access when policy is ignored. Freeze the operation when integrity is in doubt. Log everything. So corrective action is not personal. He adds a 4th line for this flight. Promote the truth keeper who read the system as it was, not as someone wanted it to be. He closes the lid and lets the hum of the taxi roll underneath the quiet sense that the real work begins after landing, when systems adjust and people learn. Cruise altitude brings a steady white noise that lets thoughts line up. The black CEO keeps his phone in airplane mode and reviews the emails that are stacked up as drafts. One is to the airline board liaison, who oversees customer standards. He writes it like a report. Incident at Gate A12. Confirmed first class, seat 2A. Manual reclassification to guest only by user 4137 at 8:04 a.m. No fraud ticket on system. Freeze applied. Access suspended. Evidence preserved. He adds what matters next. Recommend dual authorization for any class change at boarding. Recommend recertification within 30 days for gate leads. Recommend promotion consideration for Jamal due to accurate on system call. He saves it to send on landing with timestamps included. In the cabin, service begins. The lead flight attendant passes quietly with water and a printed slip that shows the time the request was made. Small paperwork, clean lines, no embroidery. The captain gives a short update about weather over Pennsylvania and a smooth descent later. The flight is ordinary again in the good sense of that word. Ordinary means rules are being followed and nothing dramatic will be asked of anyone. Back at the station, the audit continues while the aircraft moves east. IT security pulls a 30-day log of manual guest-only overrides by all gate users. A heat map populates like a weather graphic, pockets of activity where there should be a flat line. Compliance flags 3 clusters at A12 and 1 at another gate, all tied to the same badge ID. Legal asks for interviews to be scheduled with representation present and reminds the team to keep language to observable facts only. The point is not to win an argument. The point is to make sure the record speaks clearly. PR drafts 2 versions of a statement. The first tries to call it a technical issue. The second uses the words under review. The station manager selects the second and deletes the first. She remembers the instructions: do not minimize, do not invent. When asked, say there was a manual process under review and that boarding resumed once integrity was confirmed. She also sends a private note up the chain recommending that incentives be tied to clean logs, not just on-time metrics. If people are only rewarded for speed, they will find fast ways to ignore the system. The black CEO opens a second document and writes a training module outline to attach to his recommendation. Title reads, Verify, then Act. Steps include scan, cross-check CRM notes, match ID. If any irregularity, then call ops before manual reclassification. It is not a dramatic copy. It is the kind of simple sheet that survives real life at a counter with a line and a deadline. He highlights a line in his head that he will repeat later. Standards protect staff as much as they protect customers because the system becomes the witness. He thinks of Jamal. Not the clip that will go viral if someone posts, but the moment Jamal said 2A is his and the data is clean. That is the action of someone who believes the screen more than the fear of making a supervisor angry. He adds a note to ask for a pin or a small pay bump for truth keepers who cite the record in the moment. It is cheaper than any settlement and richer than any slogan. The aircraft crosses a river of light that shows a city waking up, and the cabin dims for descent. The CEO closes his eyes for a count of 4, then opens them to the quiet choreography of landing. Wheels, reverse thrust, roll out. At the gate, a soft chime and the click of seatbelts. He remains seated until the aisle clears because he does not need to be first. He needs to be accurate. His phone reconnects and sends the queued messages. The board liaison replies within minutes with a short line, Received. Case opened at board level. Expect follow-up on training and authority. Compliance pings with a new attachment. Keystroke logs and CCTV clips added to the file. Legal adds a note that the union has been notified for fair process and that interviews will be scheduled. The pattern is moving toward correction, not spectacle. He steps into the jet bridge and thanks the crew by name, using the names he read off their badges. Outside, a cool draft rolls down the walkway and smells like coffee and jet fuel. He pauses at the door and looks back toward the aircraft only long enough to remind his mind that the flight did what flights are supposed to do. It carried people where they needed to go without drama because the system held. At the terminal, his driver waits with a sign and a quiet nod. He does not launch into a story. He says only that there was a standards issue and that the airline is addressing it. He opens his email one more time and adds one last line to the board message before it becomes part of the record. Promote the truth keeper. Freeze the authority that failed. Log the pattern until it stops. Then he pockets the phone and walks toward a day that will ask for the same 3 steps again in a different room. The car slides into downtown and stops at a glass tower where the airline keeps its regional office. He is not here to perform a scene. He is here to finish the record. A receptionist checks his ID and hands him a visitor sticker with a timestamp. Upstairs, a conference room waits with blinds open and a screen awake. Ops has already pushed the case file to a secure share. The station manager appears on video, shoulders squared. Legal joins from a quiet room that looks like it absorbs sound. Compliance is in person with a laptop open and a folder of printouts because paper still matters when you want people to understand weight. They keep greetings short. He sets his phone face down and says, "Thank you for seeing this through." The screen shows a clean layout, timeline on the left, artifacts on the right. At the top, the words Gate A, 12 incident are plain. No adjectives. The IT analyst from earlier dials in and narrates like a flight plan. First valid scan at 7:12 a.m. Seat 2A confirmed. Manual reclassification at 8-4 by badge ID 4137. No fraud case on file. Boarding permission toggled to deny while inventory held the seat. Keystroke log shows deliberate selection, not a slip. CCTV confirms no provocation or interference by the customer. The analyst pauses. He adds one line that matters. Over the last 30 days, the same user executed 4 similar overrides at 2 gates. The projector throws the CCTV frame onto the wall. The image looks ordinary. Counter, wristwatch, paper pass, a finger over a barcode. That is the point. Most harm to rules looks like someone doing their job until the log says otherwise. Compliance flips to a page that charts overrides by user and time. 4 blips light up like tiny beacons. 2 coincide with busy morning banks where stress is highest and shortcuts are tempting. HR joins and confirms that the agent is in a meeting with representation and that no conclusions will be reached in this room. That is correct. This room sets standards. It does not decide employment outcomes. The CEO nods. He asks for the exact wording that will go into the training and the system prompts. The compliance lead reads from her screen. At boarding, any class change requires dual authorization. Reason must be selected from a predefined list with a case number if applicable. If no case number exists, the system forces a call to ops. Gate agents cannot manually apply guests only to an already confirmed first-class seat without a second login from a lead. The machine will not let it happen quietly. Legal frames the next step. The board-level case will track the station's implementation of these controls, the completion of recertification for gate leads, and the union participation in the fix. He replies that these conditions should be visible to staff. Transparency lowers rumor and raises trust. The station manager nods from the screen and says she will brief her team with the actual policy text, not a paraphrase. PR sits at the corner of the table with a notebook and asks if a statement is required. He answers that a statement is only useful if it informs travelers without varnish. Say that a manual process was placed under review and that additional controls are being installed to protect both passengers and staff. Thank you, people, for your patience. Do not insert a vague phrase about a system glitch. The manager and legal agree. They will hold to that language. He brings Jamal into the conversation. The station manager smiles for the first time that day. She says Jamal has been steady, that he de-escalates by sticking to what the screen says, and that passengers respond to him. He asks that Jamal be recognized on the system and be given a path to become a trainer. HR notes it, and Ops approves a stipend for extra hours during recertification. It is not a medal. It is how you tell a team that telling the truth at the counter is not risky, it is rewarded. A push notification lands on the conference room screen from IT. Dual authorization update deployed to test environment. The compliance lead requests a live demo. The analyst mirrors the gate app. He tries to reclassify a seat from confirmed to guest only. A pop-up blocks the action. Enter second authorization. Select reason code. Provide case number. The analyst inputs a random code. The app declines it and forces a call button to ops. The chain now loops through people who are trained to say no to weak reasons. They walk through the last item, incentives. The station manager recommends adjusting the bonus formula to include clean log rates. He supports it and adds a line about staff time for training counted as paid productivity. It is hard to do the right thing if the budget treats compliance like a delay. Before they close, he asks for one more safeguard. A quarterly audit of manual overrides across all terminals in the region, with results shared to both the board and the union. No names in public, patterns only. Legal agrees. Patterns are where bias hides and where fixes stick. He stands, offers his hand, and ends with the same sentence he used at the gate. Standards are not personal, they are policies. On the way out, he passes a wall of framed photos of aircraft against blue skies. They look like promise statements. He would like those promises to be backed by logs, not slogans. Downstairs, in the lobby, his phone buzzes with a new email. Case updated. Dual authorization scheduled to go live by Monday. Jamal is assigned as peer trainer for every week. He replies with 2 words that carry weight because they are attached to action. Thank you. Afternoon light slides across the regional training room where 20 gate agents sit with tablets. A white bar on each screen reads dual authorization live. The station manager opens with facts instead of slogans. This morning at A12, a manual reclassification blocked a confirmed first-class seat without a case number. We froze the lane, documented the sequence, and corrected the process. Today, we installed controls to keep that from happening again. No villains, just systems that now refuse weak reasons. Jamal stands at the front with a demo account. He is not theatrical. He plugs a scanner into a training terminal and holds up a sample boarding pass. Scan, chime, assignment displays. He explains the workflow like he is teaching a recipe. If the scan returns irregular, you check CRM, notes, and ID. If the system still blinks yellow, you call ops. If someone attempts to reclassify a confirmed seat, watch what happens now. He tries to flip the status to guest only. The screen denies him and requires a second login, a reason code, and a case number. He taps none. The app refuses and surfaces the call ops button. He lets the silence after the refusal do the teaching. Compliance follows with context. The new guardrail protects staff as much as customers. It stops you from carrying the burden of a bad call alone. If pressure appears at the counter, the system now routes it to a second set of eyes. She shows a heat map of overrides by hour and role. The room leans forward. People like to see their work represented by something other than anecdotes. She circles the morning bank where the breaks are most likely to happen and reminds them that training is counted as paid time, not a favor squeezed between flights. Legal speaks briefly on language. If you log a behavioral concern, record only what you saw and heard. No adjectives, no inferences. The union rep nods. The process gives cover when the facts are clean. HR adds a note about research scheduling and offers pairing mentors for anyone returning from leave who has not used the new prompts. The atmosphere shifts from defensive to collaborative because each piece feels specific and real. On a break, 2 agents approach Jamal and quietly thank him for naming what the screen said at the gate. He deflects and points back to the logs. The manager overhears and uses the moment. This is what we reward. She explains the Truth Keeper stipend and the invite to help write scenario drills. It lands well because it is not a plaque on a wall. It is time on the clock and influences how work happens. Across town, PR posts a short notice that reads like a clean line, not spin. A manual process at one gate was placed under review. Additional controls have been installed to protect passengers and staff. We appreciate your patience. There is no flourish. In the comments under unrelated posts, a few people share clips from the morning with captions about calm and receipts. The story travels, but softly, because it is about correction, not spectacle. At headquarters, IT flips the change across additional stations. The rollout plan includes a check that pings if any gate leads are still on the old build. When it pings, a technician phones the station instead of sending an email that will hide in a folder. The goal is adoption. not a paper trail that satisfies a checklist while the old behavior persists. The black CEO reads the training deck that compliance sends and replies with 2 notes. Add a step that reminds agents to offer a seat check to the next visible passenger to keep the line moving while ops reviews. Include a reminder that families with small kids get verbal updates so they do not assume the worst when lights change color. Small operational kindnesses reduce heat without weakening standards. Late afternoon, a board committee convenes over video. The liaison summarizes the fix and the audit plan. The question around the table is not who to blame, it is how to make sure the control survives turnover and time pressure. Finance asks about cost. Ops answers with a single page that shows the expense of training and the savings from avoided disruptions, complaints, and legal exposure. The math is cold and generous at once. Integrity is cheaper than improvisation. The agent from a 12 sits with HR and representation to review the logs. There is space for context and accountability. The outcome will not be decided by a clip or a feeling. It will be decided by whether the pattern matches the policy or breaks it. That is the fairness everyone keeps pointing back to. Evening settles. The station manager sends one last note to her team. Today was hard. Tomorrow will be better because we made the system help us tell the truth. Jamal locks the training kit and heads for the train. His phone buzzes with a calendar invite. Peer trainer, week of research. He grins at the date and then puts the phone away. The work ahead looks like routines that, once learned, make drama less likely. That is the win. Morning headlines skim past without naming the incident, just a line about process improvements at a regional hub. That is intentional. The story is not press, it is practice. In the CEO's inbox, compliance delivers the first 24-hour report. Audit status green, dual authorization deployed to all gates at the station, recertification calendar locked for the next 3 weeks. Attached are 3 charts that matter more than applause. Overrides by hour drop to near 0. Average boarding time per passenger returns to baseline. Customer complaint rate nudges downward despite yesterday's freeze because explanations were specific and timely. He scrolls to a paragraph labeled funding. The station incentive pool remains on hold until recert milestones are met. A portion is earmarked to pay trainers and staff attending sessions on shift. Finance attaches the approval from the board committee with a note that reads, "Release in tranches as targets are met, not at the end." He replies with a single line. Good. Pay the progress, not the promise. Legal sends interview summaries. The agent acknowledges reclassifying without a case number and says she believed the customer might be an upgrade cheat based on prior experiences. Legal records the words without commentary and asks for the prior cases. Compliance checks and finds none that match. The report will say as much. HR outlines next steps that meet both accountability and due process, including remedial training or discipline depending on pattern. The union remains in the loop, which keeps the fix legitimate. Mid-morning, he meets with an external partner in a modest conference room downtown. It is a civil rights and customer fairness nonprofit that knows how to translate policy into behavior. They agree to review the training module and the override audit plan, not as a public endorsement, but as an expert check. He proposes a quarterly roundtable with frontline staff, ops, and the nonprofit to compare logs with lived experience. They agree so long as the conversation feeds back into real policy text, not a glossy memo. He shakes hands because that is how you say we are not done. At the station, Jamal runs 2 back-to-back drills. The first is a simulated paper pass that triggers a review prompt. The second is an app boarding with a name mismatch. In both, the script is the same. Verify, call ops if needed, document. The drills end with one small phrase he repeats because it lands. The system is your witness. Use it. The class writes it down because they like sentences that help them in front of people. PR drafts an internal note for frontline staff that reads, like a human wrote it on purpose. Yesterday was tense. Today we have better tools. If a passenger asks why the process changed, tell them the truth in one line. We added a check to protect everyone. No euphemisms. The station manager adds a footnote about meals for anyone who worked through breaks while training took over the schedule. Culture is built in actions that start small and stack up. The black CEO reviews a mock-up of the passenger email that will go to those on the delayed flight. It does not promise vouchers for silence. It outlines what went wrong and what was fixed, then offers a simple "we value your time" and a measured gesture based on policy, not panic. He approves it and adds a line to copy the board and the union, because consistency is part of credibility. Afternoon brings the regional IT lead with a metrics dashboard on a tablet. He shows a new alert that pings if a manual reclassification is attempted without a case number anywhere in the region. The alert routes to operations and compliance simultaneously. No single point of failure. They test it with a dummy action at a different station. The phone on the table buzzes within seconds. That is an answer to a question no one asked aloud. Will this travel? Yes, it already is. He walks the concourse at the hub before catching a connection. The air smells like coffee and clean floors. Gate screens glow a steady blue. He stops at a stanchion where a young agent is explaining to a family why their seats were reassigned to keep siblings together. The explanation is clear and as short as it can be. He hears the line he likes in a new voice. "We log this so you do not have to ask twice." He backs away because this is not his moment to be seen. It is his moment to verify that the fix lives where it matters. Before boarding, an email lands from the board liaison. The committee wants a 60-day readout on pattern changes and the impact of dual authorization on throughput. He responds with a plan. 2 data polls, one at 30 days and one at 60, each paired with spot checks on the floor and feedback from the nonprofit. Publish findings internally, anonymized by station. He closes with 4 words that are becoming a habit: standards, freeze, log, repeat. 2 weeks later, the station hosts a town hall in a break room that smells faintly of coffee and jet fuel. Folding chairs, a projector, a simple agenda printed on copier paper, no banners. The station manager opens with numbers instead of adjectives. Manual reclassifications without case numbers drop to 0 across the board. Boarding times are within a minute of last month's average. Complaint volume trended down. She clicks to a slide that shows a clean, flat line. People relax when they see cause and effect. A supervisor in the back raises a fair concern. What if someone shows up with an obviously altered document? Do we still have to call ops before we deny? The compliance lead answers without hedging. If it is obvious, log what you see, call ops, and let them own the denial with you. The system backs your eyes now. The supervisor nods because the load is shared. The door opens and a maintenance tech whispers to the manager that an alert just fired at B4. The room tenses for a second, then watches as the projector flips to the live dashboard. A yellow flag pulses next to a user ID. Reason field blank. The new build refuses the action. The app forces a call to ops. On the speaker, a calm voice answers and requests a case number or a cross-check. The agent at B4 reads the prompt aloud, realizes the reason list does not include the one she was about to invent, and chooses the correct path. Verify, then act. The flag turns green. The room exhales. A near miss recorded, not hidden. After the session, the black CEO walks a service corridor with the station manager. He asks for small pain points the dashboard will not show. She names 2. The call wait time to ops spikes during morning banks, and the reason codes list needs one more option for rare but legitimate ID issues. He repeats the items and says he will take them up the chain today. He does not promise a miracle. He promises a call and a follow-up. Upstairs, finance and ops meet him in a glass room with a table that has seen too many PowerPoint decks. He keeps it to 1 page. Tie a slice of the station's incentive pool to clean log rates and successful research completions. Pay training hours at the same overtime multiplier as a regular ops because training is a form of prevention. Ops agrees. Finance asks for a cap. They settle on a tiered release that grows as audit scores stabilize. The board liaison joins by phone and signs off on a pilot program for 3 months across the region. An email lands from legal during the meeting. Interviews completed. The agent from A12 accepted responsibility for the manual reclassification without a case number, cited stress, and a belief that paper passes are often suspect. The pattern across 4 instances was clear. HR recommends a suspension with pay during remedial training and a probationary period with restricted permissions. The union agrees to the terms. Bias training is included with a mentor at each shift. He replies with 2 requests. Pair her with a trainer who will set her up to succeed, and publish the control changes to staff so it is obvious the fix is system-wide, not personal punishment. He stops by the training room where Jamal stands beside a whiteboard covered in small flow diagrams. Jamal is walking a new hire through the chain of custody for a paper pass. He does not dramatize. He taps each box and lets the new hire narrate back. The CEO watches for a minute and then thanks him by name, again with that economy that makes the thanks feel like part of the record. Later that afternoon, Ops hosts a video call with 3 other stations in the region. Each reports on research progress and small snags. One station had trouble with dual logins when a lead was off the floor. They fixed it by distributing a secure handheld to each zone. Another station discovered that the old laminated quick guide still sat under the counter and conflicted with the new prompts. They collected them and replaced them with a printout stamped with the revision date. The fixes are unglamorous, which means they might last. On his walk back through the concourse, a family approaches with a stroller and a question about seats. He never cuts the line or invokes his title. He points them to the agent, who offers a seat check with the new script. "We log the change so you will not have to ask twice." He hears the phrase a second time in a second voice and knows the culture is moving. Not because of a memo, but because a phrase became muscle memory. That evening, his inbox holds a draft of the 60-day plan he promised the board. It is divided into 2 cycles, 30 and 60, each with data and field checks. There is a section for the nonprofit partners' observations and a short glossary so that when the report says dual authorization or chain of custody, nobody pretends to misunderstand. He adds a page titled Finding Travel. It lists which controls scaled cleanly and which needed edits at smaller outputs. The last line reads, "Pattern beats intent." He leaves it there. A simple sentence that puts the weight where it belongs. As he closes the laptop, a final message pings from Ops. The alerting system caught 3 improper attempts across the region today. All 3 were corrected in the moment. No passenger was mislabeled. The freeze did what freezes are supposed to do. It created space for the right action to occur. He replies with the line that started this arc and now keeps it honest. Log everything. 30 days out, the board convenes in a windowed room with a clean agenda and a clock that everyone respects. The liaison opens with a single slide. Dual authorization live across the region, research completion at 92%, open items listed plainly, no sizzle, just spine. Compliance follows with the audit. Manual reclassifications without case numbers remain at 0. Attempts caught by the prompt total 14, each corrected in the moment. Boarding throughput unchanged within the margin. Complaint volume down. The curve looks like a promise kept. He presents the field checks. 3 unannounced visits, 2 morning banks, and 1 evening push. At each, he watched agents use the script without looking over their shoulder for permission. He quotes 1 line that keeps showing up unprompted. "We log this so you don't have to ask twice." It has become a reflex, which is how culture travels faster than memos. Finance takes the handoff and reads the cost line. Training hours paid, handhelds purchased, alerting system tuned. The offset shows fewer disruptions and less time burned on escalations. Integrity pencils out. They pivot to risk. IT security mirrors a gate app to the projector and shows a corner case, a name inconsistency on a same-day reissue. The app now forces a case number or a live ops consult, and the reason list includes the new code compliance requested after listening to agents. He tries to bypass it with a generic note. The system declines and rides the user into the correct lane. Legal notes the change on the record and ties it to policy text, not a slide. If it is not in the binder, it is not real. An external voice joined by video. The nonprofit partner. She speaks in the calm register of someone who sees policy on the ground. Observations match the dashboard. Agents feel protected by the second login and the hard stop for weak reasons. Families appreciate clear updates when screens change color. She recommends a quarterly pull of anonymized data shared with community groups and a small budget for scenario drills written with frontline staff. He agrees. Transparency is a habit, not a headline. The projector flips to a case studies page. One station caught a loophole where a paper pass reprint defaulted to a soft warning. IT patched it in 48 hours and pushed the fix. Another station's morning wait time to reach ops spiked. Operations added a dedicated line during peak. These are small, unglamorous adjustments, which is why they work. The board asks the only question that matters at this stage: will the control survive turnover? Ops points to automated prompts, research cycles already on the calendar, and a dashboard that pings when someone falls off the new build. The answer is yes, because the system has opinions now. He keeps his own part short. Terminate access when policy is ignored. Freeze the operation when integrity is in doubt. Log everything so the facts live longer than feelings. Then he adds what he promised at the gate: promote truth keepers. Jamal's name appears on the screen with a new title: peer trainer, compensation line item visible. HR notes that 3 more agents at different stations were cited for on-system accuracy in tense moments, each receiving the stipend and trainer track. Reward the behavior you want, and it repeats without speeches. A comms manager asks about public messaging. He says to keep it specific and small. No victory lap. Explain the control in a sentence if asked. We added a second authorization to protect passengers and staff. Thank people for your patience. Do not market a fix as a feature. The board nods. PR has the line ready and nothing more. They run one last drill live. IT attempts to reclassify a confirmed first seat during boarding at a test terminal. The prompt blocks, demands the second login, and a valid case number. The mirror shows the exact keystrokes with timestamps. Then, they flip to CCTV from a training room where Jamal is teaching. The split-screen image lands with more force than any speech. On one side, a hand tries an improper change and is stopped by design. On the other, a trainer walks a new hire through verify, call, document. The room sees a system that tells the truth about itself. After adjournment, he steps into a smaller office with ops, legal, and the liaison. 3 items remain. Extend the dual authorization to rebook at the counter, not just boarding. Add a monthly ethics stand-up where one real case is reviewed with names removed. Publish a simple staff-facing chart that shows audit scores and training progress by station so Pride can do some of the lifting. They agree and put dates next to each item. Agreements without dates are wishes. Downstairs, in the lobby, a junior analyst walks up with a hesitant smile. She wrote the code that pings when an old laminated quick guide is still in a drawer under a counter. He thanks her with the same economy he uses for everyone. Good work. Keep the pings noisy until the paper is gone. She laughs, then nods, because the instruction is clear and oddly kind. On his way out, his phone buzzes. Ops, attempt flagged at a small outstation, corrected in 30 seconds, video and log attached. He replies with 2 words that have become policy and posture at once: standards hold. Then a third, the one that made this arc possible and keeps it honest: logged. Week 6 arrives without fanfare, which is the best kind of milestone. The recertification calendar shows rows of green. Dual authorization is no longer a project, it is background. The station manager sends a note that the last hold on the incentive pool can be lifted if audit scores stay above target for 2 more weeks. Finance replies with a quiet yes, staggered release, tracked against clean logs, no speeches, just a lever that moves because people did the work. Compliance publishes the first regional pattern report. The cover is plain. Inside, charts show attempts intercepted by the prompt, average time to reach ops during morning banks, and a scatter of near misses resolved on the spot. The legend includes a line the team now expects to see: no passenger mislabeled. Legal attaches a memo that reads like a backbone: policy text updated, training archived, chain of custody preserved for all manual actions. HR adds summary outcomes without drama. The agent from a 12 completed remedial training returned to the line with restricted permissions for a period and is paired with a mentor on each shift. Accountability is present, humiliation is absent. Midweek, the nonprofit partner hosts a roundtable in a union hall with folding tables, coffee and cardboard, and a microphone that pops at the edges. Frontline agents share small wins and small frictions. One describes how the second login defuses the moment when a loud passenger tries to force a shortcut. Another asks for clearer language to explain why a paper pass triggers a recommendation to review without sounding accusatory. The nonprofit takes notes, translates them into edits the next day, and emails an addendum. Verify first. If review is required, we will do it together. The words fit in a mouth at a counter. That is the test. He sits in the back, listening more than speaking. When it is his turn, he keeps it to the shape of the fix, not the headline. We froze a gate to protect a standard. We added a control so the system helps you say no to bad reasons. We logged the work so the facts outlive the feelings. He thanks Jamal by name and the room nods like they already know. Jamal is running drills at 2 stations now and does not seem to be collecting followers, only competence. Back at headquarters, IT rolls out a small but elegant improvement. The Gate app now shows a thin banner when a boarding pass has moved through more than one set of hands that morning. The chain of custody shown up front helps everyone pick up the thread without relitigating the last step. The banner appears during a live test, and the station manager smiles because someone coded empathy into a rectangle. PR drafts a traveler-facing blog post that reads like a field note instead of a campaign. We updated our boarding process to require a second authorization for certain changes. This protects you and protects our teams. If a review is needed, you will hear why in plain words, and we will document the decision. No actors, no stock photos. Just the sentence people will remember at a counter. The board's liaison asks for a deeper cut on throughput. Ops presents a line that matters. Average seconds added by dual authorization when used properly, balanced against minutes saved from avoided escalations. The math is not perfect. It is persuasive. Bias costs time, clarity returns it, finance puts a modest number on avoided payouts and rebooks tied to preventable incidents. No one celebrates. They acknowledge the arithmetic and move on to retention. HR reports that agents trained as truth keepers are staying at higher rates, citing clearer backing from the system. That is money you do not have to spend replacing experience with training. Late on a Friday, a PA chime at a small outstation blips into the ops channel. A lead tries to push a rebook that would bump a confirmed passenger without a case. The prompt denies, calls, ops, and the mirror shows the keystrokes like a slow dance. The lead pauses, breathes, and selects the correct path. The station manager DMs one word, caught. He replies with 2, good, logged. He walks a concourse on his way to another meeting and watches an agent kneel to speak to a child about a seat change in a voice that makes the parent relax. The agent taps the screen, prints a small slip, and says the line that has become muscle memory. We log this so you will not have to ask twice. He keeps moving because it is not his job to be seen. It is his job to ensure that sentence remains true beyond the news cycle. Before the week ends, the last piece clicks into place. A quarterly ethics stand-up goes live on the internal calendar. 1 real case per session. Names removed, facts and logs projected, lessons written into the binder within a week. Ops, legal, compliance, a union rep, and a frontline voice share the table. The invite list is large enough to spread culture, small enough to stay honest. He sends one message that is less than a paragraph and more than a platitude. We said standards are not personal. We proved it by building them into the machine and the calendar. Keep paying progress in public. Keep freezing what does not meet the mark. Keep logging until patterns get bored of hiding. Jamal replies with a screenshot of a training slide and a single check mark. The reply carries more weight than clapping ever could. 60 days settle into a pattern that feels like a system remembering itself. The regional report publishes on schedule, a plain document with a spine. Attempts at improper reclassification remain at 0. Prompts intercepted 29 edge cases and routed them to ops without incident. Recertification completion crosses 99%. The incentive pool begins to thaw, tranche by tranche, as each station hits audit marks. People notice because pay is how organizations say we mean it. He sits with the liaison and compliance in a room that overlooks a runway. A cargo plane lifts into the clouds. They review the last open loops, extend dual authorization to counter rebooks, add a pre-flight checklist line for leads to verify that override permissions match role assignments. Publish a monthly transparency page on the intranet with 3 numbers and a short note written in ordinary English. No banners, no stock photography, just proof of life. They agree and put dates next to each line because dates are what separate intent from structure. The nonprofit partner sends a memo that reads like field work instead of theory. Agents are using the phrase verify, then act in ways that diffuse heat at the counter. Families respond well to the promise that decisions are documented. One recommendation lands with weight. Add a short, audible tone when an ops consult begins so both sides know the call is on record. IT prototypes the sound and a clean banner and rolls them out to test in a week. A small rectangle on a screen becomes a small moment of trust. HR closes the loop on the A12 case. The agent completed remedial training, passed a scenario exam with oversight, and returns with limited permissions that will scale back up as audit scores hold. Her mentor is a steady lead who treats policy as a tool, not a prop. Legal logs the outcome without adjectives. Accountability delivered, humiliation avoided. The union signs, and the station manager briefs the team with the actual policy text. Not a paraphrase learned in whispers. Jamal keeps teaching. He has a new lanyard and a line in payroll that marks him as a peer trainer during recent weeks. He erases a whiteboard and starts again 3 times a day. Scan, cross-check, call, if required, document. He adds one nuance that came from a night shift agent at a smaller outstation. Narrate your steps aloud in front of the passenger when appropriate. It slows the moment down and shows that the system is not a magic trick, it is a process. The note spreads because it works and costs nothing. PR posts a traveler update that is precisely the length it should be. We now require a second authorization for certain boarding changes. If a review is needed, you will hear why and see it documented. Thank you for your patience while we installed this protection for you and for our teams. The comments thread is quiet, which is the goal. When policy is specific and solid, few people argue with the air. Ops adds a monitor that tracks call wait times during morning banks and flags spikes with a text to the duty manager. 2 days later, the text fires at a smaller station. A supervisor reroutes a lead to answer consults for 30 minutes and the spike flattens. The action is dull by design. Fixes that look like maintenance are the ones that endure. He walks through a terminal on a Tuesday and watches a near-miss resolve in 10 seconds. An agent starts to choose a vague reason code, stops, and hits the call ops button instead because the drop-down no longer indulges soft language. The audible tone plays, the banner appears, and the second set of eyes clears the board. The passenger hears quiet words that carry confidence. We documented the check. Your seat stands. He does not linger. He is looking for the places where the machine and the human support each other without a speech. In his inbox, Finance attaches a short slide that ties savings from avoided disruptions to the cost of training and hardware. The column on the right is higher. A note adds that retention among truth keepers and recertification trainers is climbing. Experience stays when systems back people up. He forwards the slide with 2 lines to the board. This is what progress looks like when it is measurable. Release the remaining incentive tranches on schedule if the numbers hold for another 60 days. The reply is simply approved. By late afternoon, the first quarterly ethics stand-up meets in a conference room with a projector and a circle of chairs. Names are removed, logs are shown. A recent case from another station is reviewed in 20 minutes. An agent narrates her decision tree. Ops explains the consult. Legal notes the policy line that fixed the fork. The union rep adds how fatigue nearly bent the line and what schedule tweak solved it. Notes become edits to the binder within a week. Culture accrues in these unflashy circles. He calls the regional VP not to debrief the past, but to set the next few steps. Push the dual authorization to check-in counter rebooks. Install a quarterly public line in the annual report that shows how many manual changes were audited and how many were corrected at the prompt. Partner with the nonprofit to produce 2 scenario videos with frontline staff as writers. The VP agrees, and they pick months, not seasons. On the way out of the building, he passes a wall where a corporate slogan sits under glass. He does not read it. He thinks instead about a scanner beep that is now a chime and the small on-screen rectangle that says the call is live. Those are the true slogans, signals that shape behavior. He sends one last email that takes less than a minute to write and a long time to earn. Promote truth keepers. Keep the freeze lever within reach. Log until the pattern changes, then log some more. 90 days out, the story ends the way systems should. Quietly, with proof. The regional dashboard opens to a calm field of blue. Attempted improper reclassifications sit at 0. Where the line once wobbled, it now holds. The incentive pool releases its final tranche because audit scores stayed above target across stations 2 cycles in a row. People notice the deposit more than any memo. That is the point. Progress pays. Compliance publishes the quarter close report. It is a slim document with sturdy pages. Findings are simple and specific. Dual authorization prevented 29 bad decisions from becoming incidents. Call wait spikes were caught and flattened in under 15 minutes during morning banks. Near misses resolved on the spot are logged with timestamps and short notes. Legal attaches the policy text that now carries those findings forward. The binder is not a prop, it is the trail. HR closes out the remedial arc at A12. The agent returns to full permissions after a monitored period without issues, a clean set of audits, and mentor sign-off. The summary line is brief. Training completed, controls in place, performance on record, accountability without spectacle. The union co-signed because the fix was structural, not theatrical. Jamal's trajectory becomes the aftercare that actually matters. He is no longer just a name in a thank you line. He is listed as a peer trainer across the region with a calendar of sessions and a small budget to write scenario drills with frontline agents. He teaches the same plain sequence every time. Scan, verify, call if required, document. He adds one sentence that people repeat because it helps at the counter. We slow down so the truth can catch up. The phrase catches because it works. Operations standardizes a monthly ethics stand-up. One real case, names removed, logs and CCTV projected, decisions mapped to policy. The sessions are short enough to fit a shift and long enough to carry weight. The notes turn into edits inside a week. The cycle becomes the culture. You do not wait for a crisis to practice the fix. The nonprofit partner returns with a short evaluation. Agents report that the second login feels like cover, not surveillance. Families report fewer mysteries at the rope line and clearer words when screens change color. The memo recommends 2 small additions that land well. A one-line script for paper passes that avoids implying suspicion while still prompting review, and a visual cue on the gate app to mark when chain of custody crossed hands that morning. IT ships the cue in days. The script fits on a palm-sized card and into a mouth at a counter. Finance places a single slide in the board folder. Training hours paid and handhelds purchased on one side. Avoided disruptions, lower complaint resolution time, and higher retention among trained agents on the other. The right column is heavier. That is not bragging. It is arithmetic. Clarity saves time and money because it stops small fires from becoming paperwork. He walks a concourse one more time without cameras and without entourage. At a gate, a lead helps a new agent through a tricky rebook. The prompt stops a lazy reason. The audible tone signals the ops consult is live. The banner appears. The second set of eyes clears the path. The lead nods and says the line that now belongs to the place. We log this so you do not have to ask twice. The new agent breathes and repeats it. That is the handoff culture needs. He sends 3 short messages before he leaves the region. The first to ops and compliance. Keep dual authorization on counter rebooks and push a pilot at check-in for last-minute class changes. The second to HR and the union. Keep the Truth Keeper stipend and expand the trainer track so we do not burn out one Jamal. The third to PR. If asked, answer in a sentence and no more. We added a control to protect passengers and staff. Thank you for your patience. No slogans, no victory lap. On the drive out, his phone buzzes with a final alert from the dashboard. An outstation attempted a manual change without a case number. The prompt blocked it. Ops answered in 9 seconds. Corrected at 20. The log reads like a heartbeat you can trust. He replies with the 3 words that began as a line and became a lever. Terminate when policy is ignored. Freeze when integrity is in doubt. Log everything. He stops, deletes the verbs, and sends the shorter version that now lives on screens and in training decks and in the way people speak at a counter. Standards: freeze, log, The concourse hums with ordinary travel. Wheels roll. The blue glow at the gate stays steady. The camera on a phone somewhere finds nothing to film because nothing goes wrong. That is the right ending. Not applause, not outrage. A system that tells the truth about itself, with people who know how to use it. He steps into the light near security, nods to a guard who nods back, and lets the day close on a sentence that never needs a microphone. Standards are not personal. They are policies, and now they are practicing.